Cherokee Elementary School, and I know everyone in the room. I want to talk a little bit about what this is, what tonight is focused on, and then what's going to be happening at some of our respective school sites. So I know that we have, a very diverse group. We have a Cherokee parent in the house of several scholars. And so just knowing that, the counselors that are here, our community pastors that are here, different agencies, our life coaches at the high schools, other administrators, principals, as well as district administrators. Our goal is really very simple. Our theme this year for Parent University is side by side, we thrive. So we know that collectively, relationships are critical to the success for children to be, where they need to be academically, socially, and emotionally speaking. And so there are going to be a couple things that are happening throughout our district for the 21-22 school year. As 2021 is coming to a close, we are actively in the process of engaging and beginning fostering hope through raising highly capable kids. This is a curriculum, a 13-week commitment for our parents and family members to attend to at their respective school site. So for some of our families, they may have scholars that may be at ECC, an elementary site, and even a junior high or high school, just depending upon family dynamics. However, whichever site that they want to be a part of the Parent University, they are able to attend that particular strand. And so each school site will have its own cohort for the spring of that 13-week commitment. And so more information will be coming out. Each school leader and leadership team will be responding to that and making sure that they get that information out to you. Ultimately, what we're going to do is to empower our families to join us as partners in their child's education. We know that, collectively it is a team effort. It's not a one. The teacher, is very responsible, as well as the administrator, as well as the counselor, as well as the family. And so sometimes, we've come out of the pandemic. We've come out of, hi, Ms. Owen, how are you? We've come out of so many things that have enabled us to be where we are today. And we're limited with the amount of achievement that we've seen with our scholars and growth. And so I thought that it would be appropriate, in addition to the cohort of the 13-week commitment for our parents and families, we're also going to be having monthly sessions here at the King Center, similar to this, where we are, taking the opportunity to really address concerns across our desk as a school district in various ways, whether it be at the classroom level, whether it be at a school building level, or even if it's at a district. We want to continue to tear down any walls, and we want to provide a culture that's inclusive for all of our families and stakeholders and our students especially to be successful. So I'm going to go ahead and get started tonight. I might have done too long of an introduction because clearly the computer has gone to sleep. Okay, we're back. So tonight, talking about fostering a sense of hope, cultivating a sense of hope. What that looks like, we're going to talk about. I've spent some extensive work with Dr. Chad Elman out of OU, the University of Oklahoma, and he's spent a couple of decades now researching hope and how to really understand this whole sense of hope. We think from each and every one of us in the room, when we think of hope, we all have a unique definition of what hope means for us. And so we'll establish one tonight for the purposes of our time, but it does not stop there. So I'm challenging you to go back into your respective, whether it be the home, whether it be family, whatever it might be. We want to make a difference, and we want to really be able to improve not only our outlook, but then also when we improve our outlook, then whatever role it may be, whether it's parent, whether it's teacher, whether it's clinician, that's going to then influence the work that we'll continue to do for the best interest of our children.
Can't hear you, can't understand you.
So what is hope? So after taking the opportunity to engage with several, classes that I've been in, whether it's graduate school, whether it's, like I said, with the work of Dr. Chad Helton, it's very important for us to establish what is this concept of hope. It's more than simply a good feeling or wanting to do better. I think we sometimes say, someone is not feeling good. We say, oh, I hope you feel better, or I hope that situation gets better. But hope is, for the purposes of our understanding, is the belief that your tomorrow will be better than your today. And that you as the individual, you hold the power to make this belief a reality. So put that down to say that, we've been in a pandemic, we've been forced to be at home in isolation. We are now engaging more in person. We're not necessarily so restricted as we once were. And so while we saw a couple of years ago, we were kind of more we'll see in a minute what happens when you live in hope. But getting to this day, we're doing something that 2 years ago, that we would be able to assemble once more. We did not know that between. And ultimately, within each and every one, we know that belief that will be better than us today. And we are that are in charge. We are the ones that can make it so. And so sometimes the students
Does not sound clear.
when they come to us, home is being shattered. We may have so many various things that we parent give us this sense of hope. And so we're going to include that prince in the conversation form, but not only with that, I'm really understand the concept of hope and also with a three-point setup and here in just a moment. So when we're thinking about hope, we're thinking about feeling, yes, it is the ability to understand and but how do I do that? Three components are really what Walter Hill and and they are really one, goals. Okay? Goals. To get purposeful goals. Second, pathways. Those are those mental roadmaps that we have to reach our goals. And then third, agency. It's that real power, okay? The mental energy that we put forth so that our pathways come along. So number one, we'll take I have some slides that are going to break that down for you from different perspectives. Number one, from a student perspective, also from a parent perspective, but then also I then will take it here in just a moment and look at what happens in the absence of it. So when you're thinking about it, at the end result, in order to make our tomorrow better, we have to do something to change our today and the decisions that we make. And so what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the establishment of a goal. Now, for sometimes in the absence of being able to see, it may be very short term, like I've got to put dinner on the table today. And yet along this 8 o'clock in the morning, I have, we may go to labor ready or, those staffing agencies to help to pay at the end of that day, just so that you're able to go out, buy food and prepare something for that table that night. That may be one family's goal. Whereas another set is I'm helping my child with reading so that they have the third grade test. I don't have to worry for a meal where it's going to be, we got plenty of food in the refrigerator, but my child is struggling with reading. And so on two drastic extremes, we both have, the concept that we want better and know that we are wanting and have full control of, certain factors to make that so, but then there's also how we have to get there. What is going to be my pathway? So we can set a goal, but if you don't have pathways, how can you ultimately reach that end point of that goal? But then it takes it a step further. Yes, I have the pathways, which are those action steps if you do it. Steps, but with that, it's kind of like we hear, faith without works is dead. Without, a pathway that's to that, it's a mind of I can do this, what to do when those pathways need to be revised, and we'll address that, then that's that agency of willpower. That has to be active. And we know that sometimes when we are having conversations, with children, with students, even with families, that it's hard to identify that sometimes. Every time that maybe don't quite meet a goal or cannot develop a revised pathway, I lose that sense of ability here in human flesh to really begin to have that willpower to stay strong. And we, continue to live with a fostering a sense of hope for a stronger tomorrow. So it's a three-part concept to really understand how the person is a whole. Again, goals, the pathways, and the agency, the willpower. So kind of looking at it from this perspective, the relationship among the variables, all of it is interchangeable. If you look at it as a triangle, each part is going to feed into one another. Number one, we know that that end result is that goal. And in my ability to reach those goals, that's for me, is what's going to foster this sense of hope. But those two premises must be there and they must be working interchangeably. I must have those power pathways. And I must also have an agency, that's that mind capacity to understand that yes, I'm going to stick with this. I might have to my pathways, but I know what the end result is. And so that's where we come in with, we're not giving up. We don't quit. We got to figure out collectively as a team. That's why it's so important for us to really work closely with our students, to work closely with the teachers, work closely with leaders and counselors and our additional services in the school to really begin to strengthen that overall outlook. And we ultimately, in doing so, that's where we're going to build that sense of we can make it. We can reach this goal. Okay, I can't put that gentleman on the table for, for my family. I can be an active, participant. Not saying that we're not in my child's academics to know how and to strengthen that reading and the proficiencies that are needed to pass on to the next grade. And so it's an interchangeable. There's a relationship found. There's relationships because that drives everything, but it's a relationship here with these three components that are going to ultimately work together to foster that strong sense of hope. So don't freak out when you see this, but I've developed a roadmap to help us understand this whole concept here. When we're talking about agency again, thinking about that mental, that willpower, okay? Let's just talk through, we're gonna talk about number one, the goal here, and this is from a student's perspective, is becoming a fluent reader, okay? That's our goal. Everybody walk with me. This is the goal. And then we're looking at an elementary student. So I'm thinking Kate, I'm thinking Taylor, I'm thinking, I'm thinking Owen, okay? So with that in mind, let's read some of the beliefs, okay? This is my agency. I believe I'm a scholar and I will be a better reader, okay? My teacher will help me and wants me to be a great reader. I remember how reading recovery teacher helped me to break apart unfamiliar words to help me read better, okay? That mindset, that's a power mindset. That mindset is going to get to this because I believe that intrinsic value is set, okay? Let's talk about the apps or the ability, the pathways by which we get there to become a fluent reader. Attend tutoring with the reading interventionist 3 days a week. Read with my parents each night for 30 minutes. Keep track of my reading log in my Avid binder. That's kind of it's a best practice for like a leadership notebook so you can track your progress. But all of those elements, organization is what it's built on. But you see that the mindset is there, the pathways are there. I increase my ability to be able to foster a sense of hope and meeting my goal, becoming a fluent reader. Now let's look at it from a secondary perspective. This is your junior high and high school. I have the goal of improving an ACT score. We were just having a conversation about this before we started. So let's look at what agency, again, that willpower, that mental capacity to believe in oneself. I'm able to remember the outcome of previous study strategies, which helped me pass other exams I have taken. Also, I can follow the schedule that I helped to create for studying for the test. And then my life coach and teachers really believe in me, okay? Those intrinsic values are there, that mental capacity is set. Let's look at what some of the pathways when we're able to reach with high agency and strong pathways. Sign up for an ACT prep course. Sounds easy. Develop a study plan with teachers and counselors. Utilize practice tests to monitor progress incrementally until the test date. Again, we have the goal, we have the mental capacity, and then also we have the pathways. Collectively, we're able to reach our goal. Now let's talk about family. The goal here, spending more time with my children and family. When agency is high, let's take a read. I'm able to remember how it made me feel when my parents spent uninterrupted time with me growing up. Okay. My children are priceless, and I must make sure that they know how much I love and support them. I believe my children look back and have favorable memories regarding our family nights. Pathways. Devote one evening per week to spend with the family, uninterrupted. Only changes in emergency situations. Remain flexible and adjust the day and time when unforeseen things occur, but just commit to having that regular time with the family. Then also make a schedule with diverse ideas each night and get input from the entire family throughout the planning phase of family time. So you see the conditions here have been set. The mindset from the parents or from the family is they've been able to reflect upon maybe experiences that they've had coming up and going that were positive. They've also has it in their mind that because of that, they in turn want to do the same. It transcends that, okay? And then also wanting to be able to ensure that the children look back and have those favorable memories, heighten their opportunity that when they have children in a family, that they continue. Moving forward with pathways, there are action steps that we take to get to that goal, and they are set. Number one, we know unforeseen things happen, okay? It was unforeseen to us tonight that we would have competing other elements for our parents and families, but nevertheless, we still begin and continue to forward, okay? We still plan. There will probably be another session where we implement some of these same elements so that we are able to continue to grow and reach at a time that's more convenient. And scheduling those things that the absence of being able to do that reduces that ability to foster that sense of hope. But making a schedule with diverse ideas, that means every member of the family is contributing. It's not just we always go out for pizza. It might be we go out. It might be we go out for some. Okay. So now let's look at when that agency is low. Okay. Back to our elementary scholar, being a fluent reader. Let's look at what low agency, that weakened ability to be able to really grab and hold true to that mind pattern. I won't ever be a good reader. It's too hard. My teacher doesn't make me feel like I even matter. I have heard my teacher tell the principal when we were walking from the library, you see this book? She'll never be able to read this. My class heard it as well. I wonder if I will ever be able to read a chapter book. You know, over my time of being in education, I've heard that comment. That's not a some very children that are in our community, or maybe we have heard something similar to that coming up. And that within itself, it impairs, it does not help a child's ability to mature and to grow and to believe in themselves when they are getting. Unfortunately, and I hate this, but have been a part of those types of situations. You know, even with pathways, they can be disruptive. You can have pathways that are set for you, but if I can believe first in any of this, it doesn't matter about the pathway. And then in the absence of being able to have those elements there intrinsically, they're going to be communicated in ways that can sometimes be unfavorable when we're talking about attending tutoring with the reading interventions 3 days a week. You know, that may come out what we're reading. It may be come out that, you know, you can't get it to but were they ever a part of any of one of these? Does that lay at the foundation because it will make a difference? Let's look at that agency talking about improving the ACT score. I doubt I'll ever be able to go to college. I never do good with big tests like this. I have and so many other responsibilities. I'm gonna just try to stick to this schedule. I'm not college material, and I'm not smart like some of my classmates who made straight A's. As a former high school teacher, I've been a part of several conversations with our young people that are entering to that crossroads of, I don't think I'm gonna be able to, college is not for me. And so you say that, but you've never been a part of that yet. You know, many of us who've gone, you know, we look in retrospect, those are our best years. And there are so many remediative supports and so many additional services that are now on campuses that there is assistance for you to be successful. I always tell about, you know, when we talk about the work that we do as a district to really improve not only learning outcomes for our scholars, but that they are able to intrinsically develop those strategies that no matter what, you know, no matter what anyone says, you must believe in you. I sat on the college campus. I've been told to my face, having failed every single math test in a specific, in a 0, 1, 2, 3 class, that I've done what to do. If you don't get it, I'll see you next semester. So that very well, I've had those experiences. But I'm here today because I had the mental capacity to overpower what was said to me. All of our students don't necessarily have that, and they need you, no matter what you hold this here this evening, to help to change that, when that may have been what they have been, all that they have seen, or all that they know. So then, looking at low agency, perhaps from the family perspective, I was not even raised by my parents, so I'm not sure if I can pull this off. My children seem to be more interested in hanging out with their friends or going over to other relatives' house. And I was going to say there's simply not enough time in the day. When we have such conflicting work schedules, such conflicting time commitments, we think, yeah, it sounds great. I'd love to do that, but I don't have the time. Or my children want to be with their friends. They want to go over to this person's house or that person's house. Thinking about what is home life? What is life like? In the aspect of why they don't necessarily want to be, you know. And it's going to be those growing adjustments. They'll be there. So some say growing pains, but those growing adjustments. But in the absence of many of us in the room, our experiences shape how we understand and perhaps either develop or able to foster that sense of hope, or the ability perhaps where, we're needing support in helping to identify those pathways, to unpack and to develop some strategies to improve that sense of agency. That's what it's all about. So what happens when we talk about the absence of being able to get one element, whether it's the pathways or whether it's the agency, and we're unable to have strong or strength or positive outcomes from them both? This is what happens. We take many times what happens in our past, and that supports our memory, okay? Our memory of the past. If it was unfavorable, we go into rumination. We start to look at things from a negative lens. So everything we understand is kind of more on the pessimistic side of things, very negative, okay? Because that's how it was when I was young, okay? It was negative. Or we look at things from a positive perspective and we get this nostalgia, meaning that we're able to, see the good in many of our past experiences, and that guides our forward thinking. Then our attention of how we, and based on what took place in the past, that's informing our attention in the right now. But then it's also going to then impact how we imagine our future moving forward. If it was spent in rumination, I'm going to be worrying about the goals that I set. One, am I going to be able to even make it? Just like we saw with family and with the upper grade student. Then also, I'm also worried, like, am I going to be able to do this? Why? Nothing's ever worked for me in the past, but I'm steady, going off of in rumination, my past unfavorable experiences, rather than looking through things from a positive perspective. If I haven't had a whole lot of positive things happening, but I increase my opportunity to foster a sense of hope when I direct my future and how I'm out looking from the out things moving forward. So we call those things life circumstances or challenges that occur that are not quite. We look at those as detractors, okay? And those detractors specifically align with what we're talking about. Those are those opposites, if you will, those things that veer us off track, reaching out. We'll talk about that. So let's look at a glimpse of those pathways. Now we're talking about in the lens of a detractor, meaning I need to get it quite when you don't have to do some things. Let's go back to that goal from elementary, becoming a fluent reader. Remember I said attending tutoring with a reading intervention is 3 days a week. Well, let's look at what this scholar has to go through. No transportation, poor school attendance, parents not home when the child awakens to prepare for school for the day. We've got to make an adjustment. That's a detractor. Let's look at the second one. Read with my parent each night for 30 minutes. Well, I've been in 2 foster homes in 1 semester. Foster parents work long hours and they have inconsistent schedules. That's a detractor. Keep track of my reading model in my leadership notebook. No understanding of this concept, lack of organizational skills. That will affect that scholar's ability to foster that sense of hope. Our pathways need factoring. Now, let's look at the secondary perspective. Sign up for the ACT prep course. That sounds good. But the ACT prep course has a cost, and we might not be able to afford that. Also, the schedule of the training does not fit the students' work schedules and other obligations like taking care of young siblings. Now tell me what other opportunities are there? Develop a study plan with teachers and counselors. Well, there was one plan given to all students. It was not individualized. The student was spoken to as if they were an idiot by asking for help. The student heard the teachers and counselors and administrators speaking unfavorably about the student and going out to the meeting. I'm being honest with you. Some of us, we're nodding our heads because we either know of experiences or personally have had those very same experiences, been a part of those experiences. And that shapes our pathways and into how we look at things. Utilize practice tests to monitor progress incrementally until the test day. Well, no progress on the practice test after studying daily and sticking to the revised plan. Very important. Here we go. Family time. See what we have here. Devote 1 evening per week with the family. Uninterrupted, only changes in emergency situations. Well, I work sometimes 3 jobs just to make sure that I can provide for my family. I work and go to school. I just do not have the time to do stuff like that. If it's 10 to 15 minutes, maybe it's a game. Maybe it's we make cookies. Finding whatever that pathway may be. If we've got to call it the smallest amount, that's what it's all about. Remain flexible and adjust the day and time when unforeseen things occur, but just commit to having regular time with your family. When I'm at home, I must cook. I must get everyone bathed. I do not have the extra money for fancy activities or attractions, like going to bowling or movies. I get that too. And that's very true. The time that we live in, there's consistent talk about inflation. We go and, a bell pepper, for example, should not be $2. It should not. It should not. When we think about just the price of going to a movie, okay, it literally, you think, okay, I'm gonna need a part-time job just to go to the movies. For what 1 bag of popcorn is, you can go and really buy a whole case.
To feed your whole family. Feed your whole family.
I mean, so they know the tricks of popping it before you get there. But make it. You have the understanding that you go full and then sleep. Okay, 1 of the 2. Nevertheless, make a schedule with diverse ideas each night and get input from the entire family throughout the planning phase for family time. I'm not the artsy type of person. And my kids, they do not like to be bothered with me. In the evenings, they just want to be on their phones and go over their friends' houses. They try to stay as far away from me as possible. Well, that's a problem. And we want to recognize it. And so when we're talking about 13-week commitments with raising highly capable kids, we're going to be addressing some of those things. We want to sustain relationships that are strong, even at home. Okay, that's the goal. We've got to start. And then, and knowing that, and many of you here, whether you have a professional role, but also you all. And so knowing that the experiences that you had, things that you may be very well in the midst of, fine tuning and adjusting because you know that you want that tomorrow to be greater for your man. And that makes a difference. So what we have to do in order to get to that value goal, when we incur those distractions that I just spoke of, we have to revise our pathway. We've got to revise. How do we do that? It's by the work that the school is doing. It's by the work that our additional clinicians are doing. There's contracted counseling agencies. There's provisions that are there. There are school leaders. There are life coaches. There are counselors. There are teachers. There are support teams. Collectively, as a district, we are dedicated to ensuring that our students are successful. But when they start off their education at ECC, do that Christmas High School University, when they finish at the senior high school, it is what it is. We're committed. We have to identify and figure out what orders it takes coming into the school. It takes being a part. Ms. Owen has agreed to be Cherokee's PTO president. This lady has been engaged in the schools since I know that I've been before that. But I'm just saying, it's got to be everybody together. And so, yes, many times, I mean, on a daily basis, I know that I'm addressing revised pathways, whether it's behavior, whether it is academics, whether it's the social, the emotional piece, whether we've all had some experiences that weren't favorable, but they shape who we are. And so knowing that we may have had some life experiences, we don't know necessarily always why we've had those experiences, but sometimes it comes to us, and it's come to me right there at Cherokee in conversations that I've had with some of my young people. So when we talk about, and I think we all know what this looks like, just one output there and so much to do. But when you move away from hope, what do you go to? So let's talk about them. So when goals are specifically blocked, sometimes we get angry. That's natural. Sometimes that being a repetitive cycle of every goal that I've set, maybe those goals are too far and too long, and they need to have some mini goals to get there, or some incremental steps to get there. Okay, we can get angry, but it's just a matter of time till we continue to have this Pavlovian response, And I know we've all heard about that. They ring the bell, to show the food, the dog's out there. Ring the bell, you don't ring the bell and then you put food, the dog is confused. Same thing with us. We know this, we go, anything that reminds us of anything that we have been conditioned to respond to or see, that shapes our understanding. So after a while, yeah, we get angry, but then that begins to weaken us so that then we are not as likely to get so hyped up or, excited about setting or achieving a new goal because we haven't had to achieve what's success in any mechanism. And so with that in mind, we go into this whole sense of kind of despair. I began to just kind of, waver. I'm not really lose that intrinsic motivation altogether. I'm not able to necessarily see because I've been impaired from the anger. I've been impaired from the, and those elements not addressed. That's what really begins to, that causes a lot of additional challenge for families as well as, adults for us, but then as well for our children. And so whether it's the little things, and I know like in kindergarten, we always want to please them, we want to please the teacher, we want to please, and so we want to get those, those stickers or those stars or whatever, and as adults, we want whether it's money or other things to celebrate, but just to think of putting ourselves in that kindergarten role and what joy it is to see your name with that sticker chart, just the little things like that. But when we continue to move, away from this sense of maintaining motivation and we move past despair, we go into apathy. And it's a sense of hopelessness, a sense of just, throwing in that towel. And in a time that we're in, I get it. We're drunk. We have never been so tight than we are at present. And no fault to our own. We spent the pandemic in a time of stay-at-home order. We were so consumed and worried about when we would be able to get back to life. And in the absence of that, we tried to work from home. As educators, we tried to influence the education from home. And I remember I've gone as far as to Taft, and I've gone all out elsewhere in Z with Chromebooks and hotspots and everything. And we did what we could. Some of our, as you had to serve as teachers, of your own children, in addition to trying to work in some type of capacity, but collectively, all of that has had to really, this kind of, we moved past it, and we're back into a new revised sense of normal. And it's going to take some adjustment, but nevertheless, we've got to believe that a brighter future lies ahead. We got to believe that that's still, the end result, whatever it might be, whether it's for your child, whether it's for your family, no matter what it is, that it's still possible. And based on those three premises, again, having that willpower, that mental capacity, okay, but also having those pathways. We got to have those pathways, those action steps to get us there. So when we're thinking about our goal setting, yes, we know we want to develop those goals. As 2021 comes to a close, I thought it would be beneficial to take that opportunity to really talk on that. We all, January 1, I'm sure we'll have a, one or two, three things, it's normally save more, eat less, and, and working. So what do? We might decide to like do a hidden bank account or put a slit in the mattress and start, putting money there. Soon to know in February, we're gonna take it out, but still, we're gonna still try to do that. We're gonna go and get a gym membership. We're gonna go to Whole Foods, Sprouts, or somewhere, start spending all these vitamins and this work out here, and all of this other stuff. And, February, I don't know where, we probably wear the shoes, but all the rest of it, and then, and that's the thing. But yes, it's good to set those goals, but then we get some action steps in there as well. If we say, by March, we have to have, lost this amount of weight. I know that this is what I'm going to focus on. This is how many calories I need to take. This is what I'm going to be doing for exercise. This is what I'm going to be doing, this and have those pathways for, the mindset was there, yes, but I didn't have pathways. I want my child to be successful, and we're working on, in that 3-month time until that state test. This is what we're going to need to commit to. We need to read every night. We need to know how to read. We need to have a safe location, a learning location. That came to me in COVID, because it's like, you don't have this stuff, have a learning location where you go and sit down. It's uninterrupted, that we know it's not a playtime here, that, I've got a sturdy place to hold my materials. I know where my materials are for learning. I've got books, I've got a book pack, my little area of my library, whatever it is. And I know that when I go here, this is what my behavior looks like. This is what is expected of me, and I know who's going to help me in that moment. If it's mom, if it's dad, if it's brother, if it's sister. But this is what I'm committed to. That I also have a reading room at home. That I'm able to track my progress every single day. It may be that mom and dad has designed that at the end of 2 weeks, if I have, I've been able to work it, and maybe question, then I have a question. It may be 3 choices. But again, I can say, you got 3 months and we need your child ready for this test. But if we don't sit down and develop those pathways, yes, it's not so many, but is it worth it? It is. But those are the things that's going to be very, very streamlined. If we're wanting to reach hope or reach and achieve and even exceed our goals, it's going to take developing those viable pathways. It's going to also take looking at what success looks like for the child, for you as a parent, for us really as the educator. All of those elements have to work in a stair step, really climbing and building on top of them. As we saw what it looked like when they fall back, leading into apathy, this is what it looks like to foster a sense of hope. So just again, looking at strategies to nurture this sense of hope. We know it's all built on the premise of goal setting. We know that interchangeably there's 3 components. There's goals, there's pathways, and there's agency. We have to problem solve when we identify those obstacles. We have to create what does hope, what does that look like? What does that end result look like? It's going to look different from Mrs. Fleet than it's going to look for me, as it will look different from me. And so, because of no 2 children are alike, they may be siblings, maybe 3 or 4, all in the same house. It doesn't matter. What works for one may be something totally different. But we take the time and we come together and we devise a plan, action steps, so that we'll building one another. That's what's going to get us to the next step as we move forward. Not only for the parent-child relationship, but the parent-child-school relationship, district relationship, city relationship, state, national. That's where it starts. And so when we talk about NPS as a whole, fostering a sense of hope, how do we do that? and I'm known as the king of acronyms. This hospital will tell you, every meeting we have, I always have an acronym ready to go. But if you break hope down to what we're committed as a district, the H, heartfelt service, every single day. That's from our administrators, that's from our teachers, that's from our support team members, that's every stakeholder. The O comes to happen. If we don't necessarily get it right the first time, we're committed to going back again. We revise. Sometimes we encounter a detractor, but what do? We don't give up. We make those revisions with the revised. P, positive affirmation. The experiences that little girl had about not being able to breathe. Me being told, oh, I've done all I can do. I'll see you next semester. Those types of things, that's a no-go here. And that's a non-negotiable. And then each one reach one. I may have had 9,000 things to do, but one issue that may have taken 2 to 3 hours of the day. It's more important to support that in the present than any email you can send, than any other meeting that you can attend. Because the biggest element sometimes is right in front. And so that may be our children, that may be helping our children to become better at somehow. Because, I've yet to see that there are opportunities that we look back in retrospect, I think of the family that, there are 5 children that has, with that catastrophic event last year when it pandemic. And, school children, they used to walk hand in hand in Cherokee. And so that's how they would walk, and they would walk out, and the way that it's set up, they're going out the back to the bus. The young man, he always helps us. He was at first, he was at everyone, he would walk out, to the team, says, we think about our children seeing, and they might have a rough day or whatever. We say, you got this tomorrow, you're gonna have this consequence and X, Y, and Z. But to think that at the end of the day, how do we really want to end the day for our students? How do we want to end the day? Because we don't know, and we may see them come back the next day. And what impact do we really? If we look at that from the perspective of our service, as we look at that as a perspective of our role, whatever, whether we're a parent, whether we're a teacher, whether we're a leader, looking at it from that lens, where would we be? Every single day we have an opportunity to make something bad. So ultimately, that is what I wanted to really key in on during this time. I think we will again have this. We're going to need to regroup a little bit and strategize as a district moving forward. We want to have this. I think it'll be advantageous for more of our parents to go through. So what I as you are going back into your respective smaller, or rather even larger communities and organizations to share that, we'll be getting that together on the sign-in sheet that you just put your emails on there. We want asking that you can kind of promote that out on social media. We'll get a revise for 7 new days. Okay. We'll also go out and we will share that video link to YouTube very shortly. So we have classroom radio Cherokee on this house and test communication system for our campus, but nevertheless, we want this to be grand because as we start a new year, especially coming out of COVID, coming out of so many different things, displacement, many of our families, we want to foster a sense of hope in the absence of always seeing that in what society is. I hope everybody has a great evening. Thank you for being here. We take it off.
Bring the plate.